No, living with migraine is not fun. And I've quickly learned that it can be really isolating. And so having a space to talk about it, I think is just really empowering. So thank you too for reaching
Yeah,
out.
of course, of
Yeah.
course. So why don't you, tell me about what, like, your migraine experience, how long you've been getting them for, and
Yeah.
how it's impacted your life.
Sure. Where to begin, really? So I always have had headaches. For as long as I can remember, I've been a headache sufferer. Just would have them every week, potentially every other day. And I think especially during my adolescent and college years and post that, just had them frequently. And probably not alone that I thought that was just normal, that folks had a lot of headaches. And I was officially diagnosed with migraine in 2022. So it wasn't even an official diagnosis until then. And what led up to that was there was just a period of time where they would increase with frequency. And I had my first full-fledged migraine attack that really knocked me down, where I had to go to the hospital. I had to seek additional medical care. And for not having an official diagnosis at that point, it was really scary because you don't totally know what's going on with your body. And so that led to, so that was about in the fall, I think, of like 2022 or so. And that led me to really exploring this and understanding, okay, this is not normal. My body should not be shutting down. I shouldn't be not able to interact with my family. And so got paired up with an incredible neurologist, got my official diagnosis. And then since then, I've just navigated, I think what a lot of probably migraine sufferers are doing is just learning as much as I can about my own personal triggers, because they're different for everyone, seeking out different forms of either medication or just ways to holistically minimize that and keep myself healthy. So it's been quite the journey. And
Are you on preventatives or?
Yeah, good question. So I was on Qulipta to start and unfortunately had just horrible experience. And there's nothing against Qulipta, just caused a lot of other side effects in my body to cause things to shut down and really had to rebuild from there. But I actually use Nurtec as a rescue medication, which has been wonderful, but I don't take it as a preventative. What I've tried to do is more so take a holistic approach of being mindful of my triggers, making sure I'm taking a lot of water, getting rest and those sorts of things. But then obviously using Nurtec whenever I need to, which is
whenever you get it. Yeah. And what are some of your symptoms? So it sounds like in the beginning, they were just headache, pain, I guess, and maybe one side of the head or whatever. Was the attack that you got, was there additional symptoms you had?
Sure. So I think what made that attack really, it pointed out to me something else is going on, right? It definitely started as head pain. And I'd say 9 out of 10, most of my migraine attacks start with some sort of head pain, whether being directly on one side or kind of across my forehead in general. But that particular day, it was kind of like almost like a lightning bolt effect, where I just felt like I had a whole pain on the side of my face. And I said that didn't feel good. Something's not right there. And from there, right, you get the additional, I was incredibly nauseous. I had body chills. I lost kind of control of my body. So I was having a lot of tremors. So I continued to have all those things. I got really sensitive to light later that day. So all of them kind of hit me full force. It was like a waterfall effect. So now that I understand, right, have this diagnosis and know what to expect, I'd say most of the time it still starts with some head pain. And I think my biggest takeaway is always trying to pay attention to it. Where does it start? What does it feel like, right? How long does it last? And if I can tell we're going south, I take Nurtec or do whatever, some other things I need to do. In addition to that, I'd say if I notice, sometimes nausea can come up first, but truthfully, head pain tends to be the first source for me. Or it could be a lighter sense, like if I've gotten a really strong smell and I can realize that's not going to end well. Those sorts of things.
Gotcha. What have you noticed for you? Like, do you feel it's mostly hereditary? Do you think that there's a lot of like external triggers? Like, what have you noticed as your triggers?
Good question. So I have learned now after the fact, it's so interesting. Once I've been diagnosed, I talked to my family, and I actually have a grandmother on my father's side. I was like, oh yeah, I had those all the time. I was like, this would be great.
Right.
My sister also occasionally suffers from that. I think we have kind of different severity levels. For me, I think the triggers that tend to be first and foremost, lack of sleep, lack of water, right? Lack of eating. And that was really important for me in a big shift, because I I tend to be a go, go, go. I'm a mom and I tend to be working a lot. And so to skip a meal or have a light meal was really normal for me.
Yeah.
And I can't do that anymore. So in some ways I could say I'm grateful for migraine because it's put me on a schedule.
Right.
Otherwise, I think there's certain strong smells that I know are not great. So I try to stay away from smoke as much as possible. Marijuana has a really strong smell and I don't ever smoke. So I just try to stay from smelling those sorts of things, or exhaust. If I'm on the highway, that can be interesting to navigate. Otherwise, it could be super loud noises or light. I just have to be mindful. And I think the biggest thing I've learned too is that your triggers can change over time. I think water, lack of eating, that was kind of my starting point, and I've learned from there. It's going to keep growing. So
have you noticed any foods be triggers for you?
So I've really tapered off caffeine as much as I can. I mean, I think it's still been helpful to have some of that, but I used to be a very big, never coffee, but soda pops and all those.
Totally.
But as of like, I haven't had a ton of food triggers yet, but I think that's and partially really why I was so excited to find a meal, because again, I have to make sure I'm eating. I have to my body. And I think I was so relieved to know that there's a hearty snack that's healthy for you that I can know consistently will not provide another trigger for me. At my level. So as of right now, I don't have a lot of food triggers. I'm hoping to keep it that way. For me, I don't eat chocolate anyway. So I think
lucky. That's one of my weaknesses. So I'm like,
is it?
I love chocolate. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I love it. I try and avoid it, but like sometimes you just have to let loose.
I honestly, I wish I did like chocolate. I'd feel a little bit more normal. Folks, they're like, really? But I've never liked it. So I guess that works.
You're lucky. I don't know how you don't like it, but that's amazing that you don't. That's great. So what do you feel, how has migraine kind of impacted you being a mom, or, in any job or career you might have? I don't know what you do. In just in general in life, how do you feel it's impacted you?
It's impacted quite a lot. And I've had to really pivot and really check myself in a lot of ways, I think, and really create boundaries. That's been the biggest thing for me. So for work, I look at screens a lot. I work in the recruiting industry on the tech side of things. So I am at a screen talking to a lot of people. So I've had to make sure I step away from the computer whenever I don't need to be looking at things, right? Go for a walk, kind of break up my day a bit. There's certain glasses I use too for that blue light filter and to kind of break that up a bit. So it's been really helpful having a supportive place of work to back that up. In terms of, home, I have an 8-year-old now and he's very active and I love being a soccer mom, but there are times when I've had to let him know like, hey, mom needs to chill. Like I can't, I've either got my headache hat on or I need to sit down. And you deal with mom guilt of just, I should be active. I should be able to go outside with you. I should be able to do all these things. And so I think it's a process. And I think what's been helpful is just finding ways to kind of deal with that as a family. We've named my migraine Thanos. If you're
that's amazing. You named it.
It helps bring some human aspects. Then for my son, he could be like, is Thanos coming? And I could say, yeah, Thanos is coming. How do we want to fight him together? And so he's it's been great. Well, I've had to really deal with the fact that, you don't need to be guilty. You're a human. This is a part of you. It's not your fault. And my son's been a great caregiver in some of those ways. So I think that on top of that, I've just been really diligent about trying to watch my triggers so we can still go on family vacations. I can go to his games. And that's taken time, but that's definitely gotten easier. It's been tough.
It's tough. Well, I appreciate you sharing. I mean, it's a lot of people deal with this and I think it is isolating, right? I think you mentioned you kind of feel like it's just you and it's not. That's the thing. It's not, right? There's so many other people who navigate this and deal with it. Curious if you're, how your work, it sounds like you're in recruiting. They must be, or I won't assume, whenever you have to tell them, hey, I have a migraine or an attack, how do they react to it? Is everything fine?
Yeah. Well, and I'll say I'm lucky, right? I don't think I recognize not everyone works in a kind of environment that has that lean, mighty team that is really supportive and just really cares about me as an individual. But I think with that too, there was a lot of education that had to happen on my part too. It just, I know I had to do that when I was like, I thought, like a lot of people, migraine's just a headache, right? It's not. It's a neurobiological disorder and disease that is chronic for a lot of folks. So it was helping my place of work understand that, and also not expecting them to be full-fledged experts. But I've had to really just advocate for what I need and be really clear about that. And they've been really supportive. And I think it's nice as they check in on it. And we've come to an understanding that I'm not going to bite off more than I can chew. And they're saying it's okay to take a break. But I think a lot of that's just communication. And I go back to boundaries, which can be tough sometimes. I'm a hard worker and I like doing what I do, but I'm human, and migraine makes you sit down. So, a lot of education at the end of the day.
Education. I think what you said is really powerful, which is advocate for yourself, right? And I think for people out there who are listening, like, you have to advocate for yourself, right? Because it is a neurological disease. It is debilitating. It's challenging. But if, we as, people who live with migraine go out and advocate for ourselves and talk about it, then, the stigma, I guess, will hopefully go away, and people will be able to, resonate with it a little bit more, even if they don't get it, and they'll understand it, and make it a better world for us. So
I agree. I agree.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing your story, Amber. I really appreciate it. And it was great chatting with you.
Yeah, it was great chatting with you. Again, thanks for creating this space. That's probably been the most helpful part of my journey, is realizing we're not alone and there's other people who understand and live this. So I'm more than happy to share my story and let other folks know that they can too.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.